Hey Brock, how are you?
Doing well, John. How are you?
I'm good. I was just shopping microphones this morning. I was looking at wireless lav mics because for the past, let's see, I've had my channel for 3 years. So for 2.5 years, people have said I need a better microphone. And I was just looking at a boom system where I can like mount it onto my wall in front of all the soundproofing gear that I have. And so that I can like bring that around and use that for either voiceovers or podcasting so that I have like a real audio setup and then I can move it out of the way when I'm done.
Mm. So that would be just for your audio, like that wouldn't be where you did your videos?
Yeah, that would be for voiceover podcasting, and then the lav mics would be whenever I shoot real videos. But I like using the shotgun. I don't like having to either worry about where the mic is or something. But I'm also soundproofing. So I did the ballast on the ceiling, but I've got a soundproof and a light, like a blackout curtain on that window. I think that's where I was getting on my echo from, and so I've almost got it there because I was watching, like your video just went up today of the sneakers. Like Teddy's audio always sounds really crisp, Baron's always sounds really good, and then I'm trying to just get to like just a little bit better.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I'm still not quite happy with mine. I like the way my podcast audio sounds because I'm kind of like, it's like there's a little bit of room in it, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. But I'm using like a really nice like large diaphragm condenser mic, and it sounds pretty good. But then my video audio is still like a little roomy, and since I'm in a rental, I can't I can't like mount baffles to the ceiling or anything like that, or like do anything too big. So it's tough. I don't know about it. Do you do this where like every time you run into like a technical production problem, you just consider like I always think like, why don't I just outsource all the production? Like go to a studio to do this, hire a video production team, like just go there like once a week and like knock a bunch of videos out. But I don't think that's gonna happen.
I've thought about it because I did go to a studio that's local here. I was working with them on a project for my day job, and it's like turnkey. You walk in, you record a bunch of stuff, and then they send you. You can either pay them to edit the video, or they'll send you all the footage that was recorded, and then you pay like for the hour that you were in there. But I also find myself more on like the Casey Neistat thing, which is just like start drilling holes and cutting stuff up and like fixing it. But I also thought about like, especially for unboxings or some of this stuff, it's like there's still a nice aspect to it, which is like a guy in his bedroom versus like full on production, which is what I like about Alpha M's now. I think he just hit 4 million subscribers. It's like his production is the same as it was 5 years ago and stuff. So it's always walking that fine line.
Yeah, that's true. And all the production quality can't save weak content. Like the writing and the actual like substance has to be there. People will overlook B plus production, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, for me, it's more of like where's the bottleneck? Like would it help put out more content if I could get some help with the production, or because it is kind of fun, sort of like Casey Neistat style. Like it's fun doing the craft, like top down shot and all that stuff. So forth. When I run into like some sort of technical difficulty, I'm always like, man, why am I trying to do all this myself?
I know I'm really close to mounting LEDs up near where I have that mount on my wall so that I can get good lighting for some of the unboxings. So it's always, you can spend so much money on gear. That's what I like about like Peter McKinnon is, a lot of times he gets right back to that, which is like, I could have a mediocre video, but if I still help guys pick the best sneaker, then that's what's going to really count.
Yeah, that's so true. I have thought about getting, I think the next like big upgrade I'm going to do is some sort of gimbal or like some sort of stabilizer for my Canon, and then some sort of like semi-permanent top-down rig where it's more like I can still use like the Canon on it, so I can not necessarily get like a whole secondary camera like Casey Neistat has for the top-down, but have it like mounted to the desk so it doesn't have to be adjusted. So you kind of stick the camera on, and it's already got that nice even top-down shot.
I know, because it still looks like you're consistent with your videos now, like your position when you do your stand-up shots and everything. So it looks like you've got something pretty laid down.
Yeah, that part is pretty consistent. I'd like to have a more interesting background, but yeah, got to put some thought into that.
Well,
So
you can get a breakfast picture. Or you could
That's
get
true.
a dinner picture.
That'd be funny. Compliment.
So what's your schedule like now? Because you were traveling a lot, and I know you're still pretty regular on posting. But what's that been like now for the past month since we talked?
Man, it's been not a boring day. So yeah, I was in New York all last week, and it's actually funny because you sent me that article about you texted me that article about that steam pipe bursting in Flatiron, and I was like, I looked down at my text and I see like I think it was Gothamist or something. And I see the picture on the article, and then I look up and it's like the exact same picture that I'm looking at in real life. And I sent you that picture. But yeah, I was up there and it was awesome. We did like just some cool video photo shoots. Hung out with Barron and Megan Collins and Marcel Flores, and yeah, then coming back here and trying to make sure I have, because you know how it is, like when you go out of town, you got to have the content that's ready for that week and the next week because you're not gonna be able to work on it. So it's spinning plates, man, but it's been fun.
Yeah, I know there's so many times I just have a hard drive full of stuff that I'm like, all right, I'll edit this when I'm on this flight, and then this night I'll get this done, and so it's working ahead in a different way from other things. But so then I saw too. I mean, you did a cool guide on like pants fitting for Peter Manning, which is very complimentary to what you're doing with Modest Man, and it seems like you're really able to leverage your expertise, and they're happy to have you.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to basically just make it like really in-depth educational content, like same stuff I've been trying to do with Modest Man, just on Peter Manning's channels, in a way that is helpful to men, but will also like attract new customers. Because I think a lot of guys, I think a lot of the guys that like already watch like our channels, for example, or listen to this podcast, they probably kind of understand fit, or like maybe they're learning about it, but they're already aware that style matters and maybe they have some room for improvement. And I think a lot of guys out there, like probably the majority, at least of American men, don't actually know that style matters and that there's room for improvement. So we're trying to figure out ways to get their attention,
I'd make the case that we have some of the best looking and most informed listeners of any podcast out there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. This is a very self-selecting group, and I'm happy to have you.
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny because like inside of our listener base, like there's probably people who are super advanced, but even that subset is leagues ahead of the average guy, Yeah,
I constantly think about they have that crossing the chasm, the bell curve of people, and it's like, we're sitting at this very far left end of the bell curve of guys that are informed in style, and it's like, how do you get some of the guys that are over on the right, over at the peaks, the guys that they'd be willing to listen, and that's what I see a lot on. I see a ton of Manny stuff on Well Built Style on Twitter, where guys are tweeting back at him, changing their lives by some of his advice just on fit, and dialing, and everything, and I love that stuff. Yeah,
it's funny you mention that. Like his Twitter account is one of, like, I don't use Twitter all that much, but I probably retweet his stuff more than any other account. Like, it's just so good and so helpful. He's just really using that platform in the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. He seems very consistent with it too. Like I go on a couple of times a week, and usually he has just been on there and he's tweeting about stuff. So he's definitely grown. I think since we interviewed him, he's at least doubled his Twitter following, and for good reason.
That's awesome. Yeah, good for him. So yeah, I was catching up on your latest videos, and you did something different with your summer lookbook that you did up in Boston with our boy Escobar Style. So that was pretty cool. How'd that work out?
Yeah, I reached out to him when I knew I was going to be there for a conference, and I was like, hey, look, I'll take a later flight in the day. Let's go around and shoot in Boston and try something out, because he has done a lot of cinematic style, and I have been wanting to do stuff like that. And we just said we're going to do these looks for this day, and we'll both shoot each other's videos. So it's like if we're going out for 4 or 5 hours, we'll both get videos out of it, edit them, and I'm pretty pleased with the way it went. I like switching up any of the videos that I do, but switching up the music and like going out and hunting for good music, like you've always got rock solid music, and just going out and finding that kind of stuff to then put to the video. I learned a lot just by shooting that one, and I could see myself doing more. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely it's like a totally different format from what you usually do. Did it was it pretty well received by your guys, your audience?
Yeah, it seems like it. It's got 10 thumbs down or something, which is not, it's a little bit high on the higher side, but the video's been doing well. And so I think if I were to combine that with a little bit of, because what Carlos did on his was a voiceover about what he chose and why he chose it. And so that's normally in the realm of what I do, but I think it's a cool way to showcase products that is a little different than standing in front of a wall.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it makes sense, with what we talk about, especially since because you do a lot of like unboxings and reviews, so it's kind of cool to see, if you've shown, I don't know, I mean, hundreds of products on your channel, it's like here's what you're actually traveling with and wearing in real life.
Yeah, and that's what I want to really get to, and because I get a lot of messages on Instagram of like, people watch the videos, and I can see in isolation, it's like if you're interested in a brand, but what I need to get better at is aggregation and the roundups, which is to say, like, I think I've got 12 sneakers over here. I think I probably talked about this last time we recorded an episode, that I want to do the roundup and everything. And so kind of what you're doing with Peter Manning, it's like you got a guide that covers a lot of things and gives some really dense information through one topic, and best performance chinos, best performance trousers, best performance shirt, like all that stuff is what I'm lacking on.
Yeah. I feel like with the current like library videos that you have, and also just like I guess the knowledge base, like you could do some of those more in depth. Like, okay, I've done 20 videos on like new direct to consumer shoe brands. Here's the one that I recommend, or here's the 3 that I recommend at these price points. Like more like evergreen stuff that could you'd probably have to update it every, I don't know, a couple of years or something, but kind of like overviews based on all this knowledge that you've accumulated over the years.
Yeah, all I need is a little bit more time so I can put them together, because that's the thing, is like I think I've talked to a couple guys at Menfluential. It's like I can churn out some of these unboxings from like start to finish in 2 hours, but I want to take some of that time and put it into the roundups for exactly that reason, because my made to measure suit roundup is one of, it's not my most popular video, but it's the one I get the most questions and the most compliments on, because it is so helpful to see Indochino compared to Black Lapel compared to Oliver Wicks. And I've doubled the number of suits that I've tried out, but I don't have a video where I bring them all together. And so that's what I'm working on now, is to try and make more time to carve that out instead of trying to feed the YouTube beast, which is what we always talk about.
Yeah, I'm definitely going in that direction too. Like I'm working on one that's it's like off the rack versus made to measure versus bespoke. Now that I have my bespoke suit from Alan David, and I want it to be, it's going to be an article. I want it to have really good photography, like not just screenshots of the video, but like really good photography, a good video with B-roll wearing each suit, and so it's just to produce that piece, that like multimedia piece, is like just takes a lot of time. But that's the kind of stuff that I want to do, and I think that's like the most helpful content that I can produce, even if it means doing, less content. So definitely, like, I know we talk about this all the time, and I'm definitely like moving more and more in that direction.
Yeah, I know. On a similar topic, when we were talking about the podcast, would you feel offended, or would you feel like ingratiated by somebody that falls asleep to a podcast? Like if somebody was like, hey, I listen to Buttoned Up when I fall asleep, what would your feeling on that be?
I mean, I think that, we have very soothing, relaxing voices, and I take that as a compliment.
Because there's one specific podcast that I listen to when I'm traveling to fall asleep. And as I was listening to it a few weeks ago, I was like, I wonder if they'd care that I fall asleep to their podcast specifically all the time, because it's just like 2 dudes chatting about movies, and it like puts me right to sleep. And I was wondering if I don't know how other people would feel about it.
What have you the podcast Sleep With Me?
I just heard about that on 99% Invisible when I was driving home today. Is they were talking about the forecast in the UK that goes over the BBC radio, and they had the guy from Sleep With Me talk about it. And now I'm kind of tempted to go try that out too.
Yeah, man, I was listening to that back when I lived in DC. I was like having trouble sleeping for like a couple months, and I started listening to Sleep With Me. It worked so well, and I don't know why. Like it wasn't even ASMR really. It was just this guy talking about like kind of boring stuff, and I don't know, it worked. I almost got like semi addicted to it, and then but then when Becca started sleeping over, she didn't like it. She's like, "This is weird. Like, turn it off." So I had to stop listening to it.
I loved his description of it where he said, I want to hold the listener's hand enough that they can grasp on the story, but they're comfortable enough with what I'm talking about that they can let go. And that felt really nice. But then they also said that one of the ways that people were falling asleep was a particular reader reading the terms and conditions of the GDPR law that just went into place, and then they played a clip of that, and I was like, I could absolutely fall asleep to the GDPR terms and conditions with a British guy reading them.
Oh yeah, I mean, if it's a British guy.
But I find myself talking like they do in the podcast. I hear their cadences coming through, so it's almost like subconscious. I do set a sleep timer, so I'm like, I usually fall asleep a few minutes before the sleep timer goes off. But maybe if I listen to more legalese and larger words, then I'll be able to slowly, subtly expand my vocabulary.
Well, speaking of soothing tones, where did you get that press about your James Bond video?
Oh yeah, I was mentioned on the NPR Happy Hour podcast. I know it's a happy hour podcast, and I'm not sure if or when it airs. But I was they said my tones are narcoleptic.
That's right.
Yeah, which, hey, I'll take narcoleptic if they want to shout me out on the podcast. I also I had a comment on a video last night. Somebody said that I look like I drink soy, and I was like, well, there's no soy in this house. But I saw that come up. One of the podcasts I love, Dissect. Somebody said that he sounds like Wonder Bread, but they love the information, and so not for everybody.
That's hilarious, dude. We should have a segment on this show where we share like our best comment or worst comment from like the previous period.
Oh, absolutely. I've taken a couple of screenshots and I've done like responses to them at the end of my videos. So yeah, I can definitely grab a couple between the next one because there's some gold.
Yeah, that'd be hilarious. Like I got one today. What's wrong with his neck? Okay.
Oh, there was an interesting thing where it was, Hank Green who did, VidCon and all those things. One of his, it's not really advice, but one of the things he mentioned in a talk once is that you'll notice as your audience grows, people will stop talking to you in the comments and they'll start talking about you. And that's when you've gone from like a moderate-sized YouTuber to like a larger one. And now whenever I see a comment that doesn't address me specifically, I'm like, oh, look, there it is. Somebody's talking about me instead of to me.
That's interesting. I've definitely noticed that, and it's a weird when you read that. You're like, did you think I wasn't going to see this? Like, do they just assume that you're not reading comments anymore? Because I read them.
Yeah, it's like, hey, I'm right across the table. I can hear you talking about me.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
I know we always wonder that about like Alpha M says he never reads comments or anything, and it seems like he does more and more. But I actually just watched his video today about letting go of Pete and Pedro and bringing in a new CEO, and I think that's pretty cool. And it's funny to hear him at his scale because it's like for you and I to have the success of Pete and Pedro would be like huge, and that'd be the one thing. But because his Tiege Hanley success is so runaway, then I guess it makes Pete and Pedro look like small potatoes.
yeah, that's true. I haven't watched that video yet, but I know it seems like he's been thinking about that for a while, like letting go of some of the operational stuff with Pete and Pedro. So that's probably the right move. Yeah.
Do you watch his Tiege Hanley vlogs?
I don't watch everyone, but sometimes he'll get me with the headline. I'm like, all right, fine. I gotta see what this is.
You know what I found in myself watching a lot is the Zunigas channel, not TMF proper, but the behind the scenes of the Zunigas, like when he was buying a house, because they caught me with a couple of titles and I like jumped in and watched them, and now YouTube puts them up for me. But I found myself enjoying them because I don't really know Jose. I just see people comment on my videos that they don't like him anymore, his channel. But like I feel like I've gotten to know them a little bit through that behind the scenes channel.
Yeah, that actually is that's a cool channel. I think it's interesting to see. I think they're very intentional with how they approach like their business, and so it's interesting to see them kind of evolve. Because at first it was teaching men's fashion, and then they started Gents Tech, and they kind of had these two channels, so like two different product categories. But then now they have their blog, and they're kind of like branding their family, almost like branding their name, which I think is smart, to do that versus having like just like a tech review channel, because there's so many of those out there, and it's pretty competitive, especially given like the high production quality in the tech review space.
Yeah, and it's easy for any like younger viewers to watch this guy that's a YouTuber go out and have like a Mercedes. What does he have? Like an AMG S63 or something. He's got like big ass trucks and expensive cars, and it's like that's very appealing.
Yeah, definitely. I have a lot of material to work with, and like, the house buying and just all that stuff. So, but it's hard enough to get content for one channel. I can't imagine trying to, have regular content on two different channels.
Oh, I know. And then like Aaron mentioned on his video that he basically does the TMF videos, but then he translates them into Spanish, records those, and does those too. So, dude's a workhorse. You get what you get out what you put into YouTube, I guess.
Yeah, it's crazy. One thing, like I don't like. I feel like if I had something like Tej Hanley, and Pete and Pedro, I feel like I wouldn't do, like, sponsorships wouldn't really be a part of my overall business plan. Because like even with my role in Peter Manning, I'm doing like way less sponsorships. Because I don't really have time for them. And also, don't really need that revenue stream as much. So, but it's interesting that, I don't know. I think they just have a different level of hustle, or like different goals for their business or something, because, they have their product kind of like their separate businesses, like their retail businesses. And then they have like pretty robust sponsorship programs too.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's good for them. Maybe I'll hustle like that someday. My last thing I wanted to ask you about was data management. Like, do you keep all the footage you shoot when you put into a video? What's your thoughts on that?
I usually don't keep all of the raw footage. I keep so I basically take the like select footage in Final Cut, and once I export that final video, I put like the final video file in the cloud, and then I'll take the actual project that has like not all of the footage, but like I guess most of the raw footage, and put that on an external drive. And I still need to have like a better backup system for that external drive. That's basically what I'm doing. And then if something's like, if I need to go back, if I'm doing like a watch collection video, I need some B-roll for a watch, I probably have something on that external drive. But I guess my thought is, if it didn't make it into the actual video, it's probably not all that important. So I'm not too like anal about keeping like every little bit of raw footage.
Yeah, because I know Casey Neistat has said like he keeps every single thing forever, and he's got like terabytes of storage. But then in one of the Tej vlogs, Aaron Marino said that he just keeps nothing. Like, he even uses YouTube as his backup for the videos. Like, he doesn't even keep some of the final videos. And I'm kind of in the middle. Like, I delete a bunch of stuff that I don't use, but I've found a few times it's like bit me on things, and I have to like go download the YouTube video and grab a clip and then put it in there and things. So part of that is because I work a lot on a laptop. I've got a big desktop with a ton of storage, but I work a lot on the laptop, and so syncing with like Dropbox and stuff, it's like and then plus there is a bunch of videos I accidentally record in 4K, so the file sizes are huge, and that's a good system though. Keeps the stuff that made it into the video.
Yeah, and I think it's I mean, like Casey Neistat, I mean, at that point, there's a certain point where you'd have to have some sort of like rack storage with like automatic backup, and you have to be like pretty good about swapping out old hard drives. Because I mean, the thing is, like, even if you have a say an external drive where you keep your raw files and you back that up, that's gonna fail at one point. It's like you got to be on that before it happens, like every year. I've had external drives fail within a couple of years, and so yeah, I guess I don't know. I guess just don't know if it's worth it. But I don't think there's a right, like the fact that Aaron isn't goes show, like there's no right answer really. It's just kind of, you got to do something that works for you.
Yeah, two guys with collectively 13 million subscribers. One of them's doing it right.
Yeah. I noticed that your James Bond series did really well overall, especially the style mistakes. Something that you continue either in that specific, to James Bond or something like that.
Yeah, the first video I had a good feeling about, but I didn't quite understand the scale that it could reach. Like, my thought is, if you have a video that's good, YouTube will push it and promote it no matter how many subscribers you have. And I see that repeated over and over. So I was really pleased with that one. The second and third videos, I liked the sock video. I knew that one would be a little more niche. The third one, where I cover all three of the awesome suits, I think I talked about that. I'm pleased with that response, and I think it will continue to grow. I actually have two more that are done. I need to finish editing, and then Matt's on board to keep doing a couple more. I told him that if he's got ideas for a blog post, then I could work with him to get a video up the same day as the post, and so he's opening to continue going there. I want to expand the series. I've wanted to do a video on Andy from The Office to complement my Jim Halpert one for a while, and so like once I can get the time to either write the script for the Andy one or get a little bit more in depth on the James Bond thing, I'd love to expand that series because I'm personally interested in it, and it's the audience reaction has been great as well. Plus, it got me on NPR, so I'll keep going there.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Yeah, it's pretty cool that I don't know. It's pretty cool that you can experiment like that on this platform, and it's one of the things that like it's like, especially with your channel. I've done it to some extent, but you've done like a lot of different formats, and you kind of have your core format, but then you're like peppering in these other formats just to see what works. And that one seems to be I guess kind of like the video essay format. That seems to be a winner.
Yeah, and like I've got I think of my videos in a couple different ways. It's like I've got unboxings, I've got reviews and roundups, I've got my industry analysis, and then like I did my mattresses, I did my mellow. I actually have a couch from Campaign that I'm going to be doing probably tomorrow. And so it's like, it's all just stuff that I'm interested in. It still comes back to style every way. It's like, I'm not going to do a video essay on a movie broadly. I'm going to do, like, I'd really love to do Kingsman and talk about some of the double-breasted suits in the Savile Row and that kind of thing. And so I also want to bring in like more voices. Like Matt is such a great resource for that. I also just got I got a butcher box because I've always wanted to do some of the food subscription services, because even though it's not style and fashion, it's still like lifestyle. But I would love to get like a butcher to review Butcher Box. So like, what is the type of meat that you're getting? Is it good? Is it a good value, and that type of thing? And so that's how I think about the channel going forward, is to bring in some of those voices, because I don't know everything. I barely know anything. I'd love to bring in some more expertise.
Yeah, that's cool. That would be really cool to get an expert to kind of weigh in on stuff like that, because you take something like Butcher Box, and it's like, yeah, of course, it's kind of marketed as this premium direct consumer thing, but it's like, all right, what is like an old school, like, your neighborhood butcher who does this stuff every day? What does he have to say about it?
Mm-hmm. And it's like, I've now, from the Butcher Box, I've eaten the filet mignon, I've eaten the chicken breast, I've eaten the sirloin steak, and they're indistinguishable to me from meats that we buy at Whole Foods, but I could definitely tell that they're better than what I buy at like a normal grocery store for a budget price. And so like, that's the context that I can give. But yeah, if I could have a butcher be like, this is a certain grade, I think that'd be pretty cool. So plus I got a good kitchen for it. When I built my kitchen, it looks like a YouTuber kitchen. It's like very wide and open, well lit, beautiful. Not to toot my own horn, but I'd love to get some more stuff out there.
Nice. Very cool.
I might help my wife start a mom cooking channel. I keep telling her she should. She cooks all this food that's like sugar free, gluten free, dairy free for my daughter, and that's definitely a niche in its own. So, just like Ben's gonna do a darts channel. I'm gonna start a woman's. I'm gonna help my wife start a woman's cooking channel or something. I don't know.
That'd be awesome.
I get too distracted too easily.
I know. So many ideas.
So little time. All right, well, it's great catching up with you, Brock, and hope everybody enjoyed our ramblings for a little bit here on our July episode. We'll catch up in August as well, and in the meantime, we have a bunch of great episodes coming up with other guests, and we'll continue to bring some more on through the rest of the year as well.